right, so we ask that everyone keep themselves muted during the presentation out of respect for our speaker. Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for coming to the Summer Gardening Talk series presented by the East Flagstaff Community Library's Seed Library in partnership with Grow Flagstaff Seed Library, a part of the Master Gardener Program and the Coconino Cooperative Extension Office for the University of Arizona, and also in partnership with Native Americans for Community Action's Lasting Indigenous Family Enrichment Program. This program is being recorded and will be posted later to the library's social media accounts and any partner accounts that we deem appropriate. Your faces and names will not be shown on the recording. However, if you do choose to speak aloud, your voice will be on the recording. Please keep this in mind. Your participation in this event equals your consent and agreement to the above terms. Thank you. And now I am pleased to introduce to you our speaker for today's gardening talk, Shawnree Begay. Shawnree Begay is the health educator for NACA's Lasting Indigenous Family Enrichment Program. She has a Bachelor's of Science in Biomedical Science, is a certified personal trainer, a master gardener in training, and an herbalist in training. In her role at NACA Life, she offers gardening, fitness, nutrition, and traditional wellness practices to the community. In this way, she weaves science-based and culturally relevant strategies to promote the health of Native Americans. Her presentation will describe NACA Life's Indigenous Gardening Program, the features of traditional agriculture, and how to apply Indigenous values in an urban garden setting. So now I will assign you as host.
Thank you, Eleanor. Yat Shawnree Begay Yanishya. Tachitni Nishlin, Todachitni Bashichin, Ashi Hidashanella, Tona Odam Dashache. Hi everyone, my name is Shawnree Begay, and as Eleanor said, I'm the health educator for NACA's Lasting Indigenous Family Enrichment Program. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my PowerPoint and tell you about our program. And I'm going to switch to full screen. So for those of you who don't know, Native Americans for Community Action is a community organization, a nonprofit here in Flagstaff, Arizona that offers healthcare as well as social services to the community as a whole. You don't need to be Native American to receive services at Native Americans for Community Action. The Lasting Indigenous Family Enrichment Program is a grant program under NACA that's funded by the Center for Disease Control as part of their Tribal Practices for Wellness in Indian Country cohort. And our role is to respectfully engage holistic tribal and contemporary practices to provide community with an array of presentations, activities, and events which sustain Indigenous culture, ignite intergenerational connection, share healthy practices, and strengthen a sense of belonging. This is our team. My supervisor is Carrie Dallas. She's the Life Program Coordinator. We also work closely with Carol Fritzinger. She's the Colton Garden Volunteer Manager. We actually do gardening outdoors, and having a space at the Colton Garden is a huge part of our program. So we really value our partnership with Carol, also known as Fritz. That's me, Shawnree Begay, and we also have a garden resource worker named Sarah Sprague, who helps us do a lot of the action that goes into our program. She gets things done at the garden for us. So you might be wondering, what is Indigenous gardening? One of the features of Indigenous gardening is a part of it is basically organic farming. So we don't use chemicals in weed and pest control. We use chemical-free soil fertilization. So pictured here is an image of myself and a family, and what we're doing is we're double digging lasagna beds. So we're starting at one end of the cornfield and we're digging a trench section by section. And each section we're layering lasagna layers, which, if you don't know, are alternating layers of dry and kind of not so dry, wet organic materials. So what we layered here was compost, then straw, then alfalfa pellets as a source of nitrogen, and then we put local soil back on top of all of that. So that's a way, a traditional way of doing, feeding the soil, getting it ready for planting that doesn't use, commercial fertilizers. It's also a no-till method. So once we double dig it, we'll never have to do that again. Over time, the different layers under the ground are going to compost and invite earthworms and different mycorrhizae and bacteria, and it'll create a community inside of the soil that's going to continue to feed the plants over time. So, you might hear modern words for this like no-till method or permaculture, but this is really something that Native people have been doing for a while. Also, similar to organic farming, there's an emphasis on biodiversity. So again, we don't use those chemical weed and pest controls because we want to encourage pollinators to come to the garden. A lot of insects are beneficial, and the good outweighs the bad in a lot of cases. We also do companion planting, and that is a method of choosing and planting plants together that complement each other. For example, the Three Sisters is a traditional mixture of plants that you typically plant together. The Three Sisters are beans, corn, and squash. The beans, the roots of the bean actually fixes nitrogen in the soil, which feeds the corn. Corn is from the grass family, and so in order to make those tall shoots and lush green leaves, they actually need a lot of nitrogen. So the beans provide that nitrogen to the corn. And in turn, if the beans are pole climbers, they can climb up the corn and use that as a pole. Sometimes you also plant squash with beans and corn, because again, it likes the nitrogen from the beans, but it also has these big broad leaves that shade the ground and sort of act as a mulch for the beans and the corn, so that the ground stays cool and moist, which is especially helpful in our arid desert climates. So that's an example of companion planting and encouraging biodiversity. We don't do monocropping the way conventional farmers might. Also, like organic farming, Indigenous gardeners have a respect for environmental resources. So not to use too much water, not to use too much land mass, different things like this. Indigenous gardening is also an act of food sovereignty. So sovereignty is a big key word in Native American politics. Not just politics, but like survival. There's a long history of American paternalism over Native American tribes. And so as a way of healing and moving forward, tribes most tribes are on a track of regaining sovereignty. And as a popular chef in the Native American food world, the Sioux chef said, "We're not going to be sovereign until our food is sovereign," which is true. Our food makes us reliant on a lot of outside systems, like capitalism and big agribusiness. So by growing our own food, we're actually resisting reliance on outside food systems. We're also fighting hunger, obviously, in our community, but not just in a caloric intake kind of way. There's a kind of hunger that I talk about a lot that comes from eating food that's high in calories but low in nutrition. If you've ever, started the day eating junk food and kind of felt like hungry, even though you ate enough, you feel kind of gross afterwards, but you still feel hungry. That's that kind of like hunger that you get when you really need something nutritious, even though you've eaten something that's high calorie. So that's what I mean by fighting hunger. Growing our own food is gonna allow us to eat the most nutrient dense food possible. It also provides a local focus and builds community. Gardening is a group activity. It's something that you can share with your neighbors, something that you could maybe sell at a local farmer's market. So in this way, it can build community and even maybe stimulate the local economy. Indigenous gardening can also mean to us in our program wild foods, harvesting wild foods in an ethical way that have traditionally provided our people sustenance. So, for example, pinon nuts in this area. There's also a lot of things growing around here in Flagstaff, like goosefoot, for example, that look like weeds and people pull them up. I used to pull them up. Come to find out, they're actually really, really nutritious wild foods that you can steam and just eat like spinach or something. And for all these reasons, Indigenous gardening is a way to heal the past, way to heal past trauma, move forward, start something positive in the community. Indigenous gardening is also culture. There's tons of, depending on the tribe, songs and ceremonies. This image was actually taken yesterday at the Colton Community Garden. We had a Hopi dance group named Yoyukam Dance Group, and it means little clouds. And these young dancers did a corn dance for us. And the purpose was to invite the rain. So this is an example of songs and ceremony that come out of that need to feed the corn, come out of that, focus on growing food. A lot of our language is around native traditional crops and ways of growing. Tons of traditions have seasonality. For example, in Navajo, you only sing certain songs or play certain games or tell certain stories in the winter, during the months when you're not out in the cornfield, the months that you're supposed to be quiet. So in this way, it's sticking with the cycle of growing and connecting that to the life cycle connects us to a lot of these seasonal traditions. Again, gardening is intergenerational. It's something that young and old can do together. And when I talk to people in the community about their memories of gardening, a lot of people share stories about memories where they're in the cornfield with their grandparents, and they were good memories, and I have similar ones as well. So so it's an activity that you can do with your grandparents, even if there's like a language barrier, or you don't understand the underlying traditions. You can understand, when grandma tells you to dig a hole and put seeds in it, and eventually some of those teachings will sink in. The elders also hold traditional ecological knowledge, and this is a concept of sort of indigenous science. Over the years, when our people were more land-based, they did a lot of observation and grew to understand a lot about the ecology of the land in ways that modern science is just now catching up with. So so it's a connection to that traditional ecological knowledge as well. And when I ask community what is Indigenous gardening to them, this is some of the feedback that I got. These are some of the words that people gave us. Mindfulness, planting is sacred, food is medicine, it's a way of giving back, teaching children how to be happy. So as you can see, it's a form of therapy and connection and positive mental health for a lot of folks. So why would a grant funded by the CDC be particularly interested in Indigenous gardening? Well, not only is it sharing and practicing traditional foodways, but we're reestablishing healthy and active lifestyles to help reduce the prevalence of diabetes and other chronic diseases. So that's our main goal, is to reduce the prevalence of diabetes in particular. And the way we landed on Indigenous gardening as a strategy to combat diabetes, it came out of a community survey that happened a few years back. And people gave us this feedback, letting us know why exactly Indigenous gardening was important to them and how it connected to their health. So people value the connection with dirt, the growing cycle, sun, and water. They value the teachings about the life cycle. They value the importance of food sustainability, especially during the pandemic, when food was not on the shelves for a little while. It was scary, and so a lot of people got into gardening last year because it was so shocking to see how fragile these outside food systems are. And people have a yearning to learn about old ways or tradition, ceremony, meanings, and uses of plants. We heard from folks that many Native Americans experience a sense of cultural loss, especially when they're a couple generations removed from living back home. And urban gardening with Indigenous values and mentorship can help. I know it's given me personally the confidence learning about these gardening and traditions here in this program. It's given me the confidence to go home and ask people who are still living back home more questions, because I don't know, I just have a little more confidence. I know a little bit more, and that's kind of all I needed to be able to get the courage to ask more questions. Traditional practices need to be shared with youth so they don't disappear. And people recognize that these teachings are holistic, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So I wanted to share a short video. I won't show the whole thing because it's a few minutes longer than I think we have time for. But this is a video that I made with my father for this program, and it just kind of demonstrates how these teachings connect to culture. Yeah. And this is on YouTube if you want to see it again or the whole thing.
Taji, turkey. Yes, quite a valuable animal besides Thanksgiving. Turkey was very instrumental in bringing the fourth world into completion with the seeds, things that grow, food. As the old story goes in the legends, creation story, when a great catastrophe happened on the third world, Coyote had apparently absconded with the baby of the water monster. The water raged its anger at the inhabitant, the animals, the deer, the fox, coyotes, badgers, cougars, all kinds of birds. So the water became angry when the baby was never returned. So the great flood began. One morning, as the beings were walking away out there in the hills, they saw this great water in the background. Way out there was a white undulating horizon. Somebody said, "What is that?" And then somebody said, "Oh my God, it's the water coming at us." So they ran all around telling everybody, there's a water, there's going to be flood. There's going to be great rise in water. Move. And everybody scampered up, and the first woman, the first man, the first child, the being, told everybody, get up the mountain, get this tall mountain, this big mountain, way up there, the mountain. And before you leave, they said the water is relentless, it's just going to keep coming at us until we're all drowned. So everybody started scampering up the mountainside, and they got to the very top of the mountain. They huddled there, and all the inhabitants, the birds, the animals, they're all huddled there. The insects. And they were instructed earlier to grab an item that can be useful because they may never return. So everybody scampered around and picked up whatever they thought would be good, arrowhead here, a fruit here, a berry there, stuff like that, something that's really going to be, useful. So everybody chose what they wanted to take and that will benefit everybody. And they went to the top of the mountain where one of the beings also had I think it was a mountain lion, had a seed of a reed, a giant reed. And the reed was grown and prayed over, and miraculously the reed grew way up into the clouds, kind of like Jack and a beanstalk. And inside was about this big around, I guess this big around, maybe 3-4 feet big around. And it was through there they were going to, save themselves. And everybody started climbing in as the water was rising way up there at the foot of the mountain. As they would come up the mountain, and every beings were going into the reed to climb up. And then somebody said, "Where's Turkey?" We haven't seen turkey. And the first woman said, there is no turkey here. What happened to turkey? And way down there, saw something wobbling up, really fast, wobbling up, wobbling, wobbling, wobbling. A turkey. And finally, they shoved the turkey in, and everybody got in. Turkey was the last, of course. And people started, they scolded Turkey. They said, Turkey, you're just lazy. You're slow, you're lazy. What are we doing? Everybody brought stuff that we'll need up there. Flint, arrowhead, berries, stuff like that. What did you bring? That's when Turkey opened his wing and shook it like this. And all kinds of seed fell out because earlier, when they first noticed the water was rising, they found 20 sealed jars of seeds. Turkey took from each one of them just a bit. Turkey took from each one of them just a bit. Corn, white corn, yellow corn, blue corn, pumpkins, squash, beans, just essentials, medicine plants, seeds. He had stuffed them in his wing, and then in the reed he shook his thingy, his wing. Seeds fell out, and people would say, "Whoa!" And then he turned around, shook his tail feather, and more seeds fell out. They had a whole bunch of seeds, and they said, "Wow, Turkey, you really saved us." Some people were just holding potato or something like that. They were just holding something that can be consumed. But Turkey brought the seeds in his wing. And after he got a real big scolding, everybody was so sorry. Said, Turkey, you're a hero. So Turkey is a very important figure in the creation story because he did bring seeds up with him. Without Turkey's forethought, we wouldn't have a lot of these life-giving seeds. Turkey is designed.
So I'm going to stop it there. He continues to share a song about turkey. I hope the sound wasn't too low for that. I'll go back to my PowerPoint now. So I just wanted to share that just to kind of illustrate how far back and how deep these concepts of gardening go, particularly for Navajo people. The seeds, the bringing of the seeds is part of our creation story. And so we still tell these stories even today. So moving on to what our program actually does, we have 2 urban community garden sites. The first one is located at the Colton Community Garden, which is on the grounds of the Museum of Northern Arizona. It's actually right next door to the Peak Senior Living Community. It's open to the public, so if you ever just find yourself in that area and want to drop by, you can just let yourself in and take a look. And pictured here is the Indigenous Crops Garden. This image is from last year. And we're growing much of the same things. We're growing corn in the middle and beans and squash on the outside perimeter in those beds. We have regular volunteer hours. We meet Sundays from noon to 3 p.m. So feel free to come and join us any Sunday if you like. It's beautiful, it's sunny. If it's too hot, I'll find something for us to do in the shade. But it's lots of fun. Our other community garden site is the Isabel Street Community Garden, located on Isabel Street. It's right next door to a skate park, and it's right down the street from Coconino High School. And pictured here is a new cornfield that we just started this past year. So it's exciting, and we definitely need help here. I am there every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 5 to 6 p.m. watering. If I get help, which I hope I do, then I can put people to work weeding or just doing general maintenance. There's plenty to do. So yeah, feel free to join us Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays from 5 to 6 p.m. You might be wondering what we do with the crops that we grow. Again, using that concept of honoring the life cycle, we really want to make sure we're honoring our elders. So last year, our harvest was distributed to local elders. We donated it to Josie Montoya Senior Center, and they helped us distribute produce to elders. They also used some of the crops we donated in their hot meals program. As you can see in the picture above, this was a dish that they were able to make using our tomatoes, kale, and squash. And they distributed this via their Meals on Wheels program. And this coming year, we hope to do something similar. We may also provide a harvest feast, and we also hope to give some produce to our volunteers that show up and help out. I want to tell you a little bit about our programming. One of the really great cultural events that we have offered and will offer again is Navajo cake making. A few weeks ago, we had Dorothy Donetso Gishi show us how to make a Navajo cake, which is a corn cake that's cooked underground. You can see them lining a hole underground with corn husks, and that's what they'll pour the batter into. She also showed us how to grind corn for the batter. So you can see a young person trying for the first time to grind corn and being coached by Dorothy there. So we did this a few weeks ago. We'll be repeating this activity 1 or 2 times in the fall. We also offer traditional medicinal workshops. Last year, I did a virtual pinyon pitch salve tutorial, and the video is available on YouTube. I'll be repeating that salve tutorial in person probably in August, so stay tuned. This coming Tuesday, July 6th, I'll be doing a lavender wand and infused oils workshop. So if that sounds fun, I'll give you details about when and where later on in this presentation. We also offer ecological education, often in partnership with the Coconino County Cooperative Extension, who are also part of this library talk series. So Hattie Brown and Gail Graytop provided us these presentations last year, and we do have the recordings on our YouTube as well for these presentations. We also provide water sustainability resources. Again, last year we had an intro to rainwater harvesting, and the video for that is on YouTube. We'll also be repeating this as an in-person rainwater workshop tomorrow night. And again, I'll let you know when and where later on in this presentation. We offer traditional foods and nutrition education through food demos, mostly. The picture on the left is an in-person workshop in blue corn tamale making, and we did this just 2 or 3 weeks ago. We also have some virtual presentations from last year, also on YouTube, and pretty soon we're going to be using crops from our garden, like that squash pictured there, in food demos at the garden. This past spring, we built a Pueblo bread oven at Colton Garden from the help of Jonah Hill, who's the man pictured there. And we built this bread oven from the ground up using local soils, and we just mixed different combinations of soil and clay and constructed this bread oven. And it took a lot of love and a lot of hard work from staff and volunteers. So we're really proud of it. A couple weeks ago, we were able to do a test firing, and pictured here, this bread here was actually baked in that bread oven just a couple weeks ago. Unfortunately, we can't do a firing just yet because of fire restrictions, but we are postponing and planning some bread oven demos come fall after the fire restrictions have been lifted. We offer family fitness. On Thursday nights, we meet at Buffalo Park at 6 p.m. and we do walk to runs, which is where we have 3 staff people, and we kind of offer 3 levels from walking to jogging. And our goal is to get families who are maybe at different levels to walk together, and we can support, gradual activity in a safe environment. And then sometimes we do indoors family fitness, as pictured here, as part of our programming. So I mentioned that our 2020 events were all recorded. They can be found at nakainc.org/life. We also have a playlist on YouTube if you were to find NACA's channel on YouTube and look for the Life playlist. Because we've moved back to in-person this year, we're not recording most things. It's just too much work to be doing something in person and record it and edit it and get online. So unfortunately this year we're not doing too much virtual. So this is our general schedule of events. This is our schedule for July. Again, Sundays, we're at the Colton Garden from noon to 3, and we're just doing everything from watering to weeding to some arts and crafts, maybe some food demos. We have lots going on there. And there's always food. Someone always brings something sweet to share. We have regular watering times at the Isabel Street Garden, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And most of that programming that I just spoke about takes place on Tuesday nights. Tuesday nights are our special presentations, and they run from 6 to 8 p.m. and they take place at Puente de Hoyo Elementary School gym, which is located on the top of 4th Street. And so every month we release a flyer like this, and it'll have the topics per week. So this coming month, we'll be doing lavender wands and infused oils, a talk on sacred space, and a powwow sweat workout. We'll have a special guest speaker, Brian Mononye, speaking on Hopi planting practices and beliefs. And the last week of the month, we'll be doing a workshop on mindful eating. And again, Thursday nights, we have those group walk to runs. We have a special event at the end of this month Saturday and Sunday, July 24th and 25th, we'll have a special guest teaching us Zuni games. So actually getting up and active and running around, and that'll take place at the Colton Community Garden. That bread oven demo listed there, I don't think that's going to happen due to the fire restrictions, so I'll have to update this flyer before I send it out to you all. So I think that's all I have. To stay up to date, you can visit nakainc.org/life. I also really recommend following NACA Flagstaff on Facebook, because that's where we also get our events up, and we'll have updates. You know, if an event is canceled or altered due to fire restrictions, you'll see updates on NACA Flagstaff. If you don't have Facebook, we're also on Instagram. We have some of our flyers that get up on Instagram. You can contact myself or my supervisor. Our emails are listed there. And NACA has a phone number, 928-526-2968. And you can ask for the LIFE program. Okay, that's all I have. Are there any questions?
That was great. Thank you, Shonri. And I don't know if you can reassign me as co-host now, or should be possible, I think. Okay.
I think you're host now.
Okay, great. Thank you. So does anybody have questions for Shonri before we end today?
I didn't have any questions, but I just wanted to thank you for the presentation. It was very enlightening, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you for your time, truly.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I just have one question. When the schools start up in the fall or even during summer, are there programs for the students to come out and help on the gardens?
We're mostly a family-oriented program, so we invite families to come to the gardens, and we send out our schedule every month to the Peach Jar to let all the FUSD families know. So we don't have anything formal where we just work with students, mainly because we don't have the staff to also take care of students. It's a lot easier if we have their parents with them and making sure that they're safe. But that's a great idea, maybe in the future.
Yeah, that makes sense. Good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I had a question about the goosefoot you mentioned earlier. Do you have any pictures of that and what that looks like? Because I'm sure I've run into it before. I guess if we look it up online.
Yeah, I don't have any pictures that I can pull up right now, but the common word is goosefoot. If you look it up, the leaves actually look like little goose feet, and they can range. They get pretty tall, and they're everywhere. I live in Sunnyside, and they're all over here.
Okay, cool. I'll keep an eye out for them. Right. Any other questions? Well, I guess that's it. Thank you so much, Shonri, for your time. That was fantastic. And thank you everybody for coming to listen to Shonri's presentation.
Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.